Hi Rick, how are you? Can you hear me? Hi Rick, can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Hi Rick. Hello, hello. Hi Rick, I think your mic is mute. Hi Rick, can you hear me? Testing, testing. Hi Rick. Testing 1, 2, 3. Rick, are you there? Rick, can you hear me? Hello. Hi Rick. Can you hear me? Is anybody can hear me? Yeah, all your mics are mute. This is a webinar, so you don't need to share your video, the audio, or anything. So you good.
And I just unmuted. Got it. Okay, sounds good. Okay, we can hear you. Okay. All right, so we mute back again. We thought it sounded pretty soft, so we're gonna have Donna come up and then we go for that. Okay, great. Thanks, Sam. All right. Bye. Bye, Rick. See you in a sec. Okay. Bye.
Mute yourself. Recording in progress.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Donna Chow, and I'm your host and your moderator for today's eLotus webinar. Here at eLotus, we have been hosting educational courses for over 2 decades, and we are proud to be your trusted source for premium CEU course content with over 200 speakers, 700 courses, and 3,000 hours of continuing education. Today's webinar is Palmistry Fingerprint Patterns presented by Rick Bernard. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few items to familiarize you with our webinars and how they work. Today's webinar will be from 11 to 12 p.m. That's 1 hour, and this is Rick's 4th palmistry course at eLotus. To learn the basics, watch the first 3 introductory classes, which are available at elotus.org, and they are all CEU approved. Even better, I do recommend the Gold Pass membership, which allows you to see all his past and future webinars for free, as well as receive unlimited CEUs and free herbs. For lecture notes, download them directly from the Blue Course Access page from your eLotus account. And to use the webinar chat room, set your chat preference to everyone so everyone can be part of the conversation and see what you're typing. To ask Rick a question, please do so in the Q&A box. But just to give you guys a heads up, this class is only 1 hour long. So we'll try to get as much questions in as possible, but Rick has a lot to share with you guys today. And finally, the quiz and the video replay. You'll be notified by email once they are ready, and they will be ready tomorrow. I'll send you that email. All right, guys, let's get started with today's webinar and welcome Rick Bernard, who has studied palmistry for over 20 years with his mentor, Richard Unger. And today he will share his interpretation of what he has learned in hopes that it inspires us to study more about this branch of medicine to better support our patients and clients. All right, Rick, go ahead and take over and share your PowerPoint.
Hi, Rick, your mic is still mute.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your patience, and thank you for joining me today. For those of you that were signed up for my last class, I apologize for missing that. My schedule has been crazy, and I had starting a new career, and et cetera. So I am going to make it up later. I think the beginning of next year. So we'll get to it's going to be on hand shapes, advanced hand shapes, and we'll get to that later. So don't worry. So we're going to be taking a little bit of a left turn here. I'm going to show you something completely new, and it's an aspect of hand reading that's not really taught hardly at all. There are some cultures that do fingerprint analysis. In India, they do it. Sometimes they'll only do one finger. They'll do the thumb, and they'll tell you all about your life and what you're supposed to be doing in your life and what to expect. A little bit different. The system I learned, again, was from Richard Unger. It's an amazing system. It really, well, let me just talk about, there's a couple of different psychologies. Wait, go to the next screen, there we go. So there's basically two psychologies in the hand. We've been spending most of our time on personality, learning personality traits, behavioral inclinations, all about the shapes of the hand, the lines of the hand. So this is going to be completely different. This is what my teacher calls soul psychology. So when I first learned about it, my first class, I was kind of taken back, and I wasn't really as open to it as I am now, because it's more about what you came into this life with. We possibly didn't come into this life on a clean slate. We actually came in with an agenda. We came in with things to learn. We came in with things that made our life, gave our life meaning, a certain activity that gives our life really a sense of purpose. And that is revealed in our fingerprint patterns, which we get 5 months prior to birth. And so we call it the soul psychology. And it's a little bit of a stretch for some people, but I want to introduce it to you. I'm going to show you very basically how to do it today. There's a book that I would recommend that Richard wrote specifically on this. It's called Life Prints, and I'll have a picture of it later on one of my slides. And it's all about learning your life purpose, your life lesson, and something called your school. And we'll talk in depth about each of these. But it's a kind of a blueprint for your life. It's where you're really going to kind of learn a life fulfillment blueprint today. It's how to determine what you're here for, what your meaning is, what gives you the greatest satisfaction and fulfillment in life, where you really should be spending your time doing. And also what your blind spot is, what your challenge is, what are your areas that you're not so good at that really need development. Called your life lesson, and your school is going to be part of that. So there's really three things that we're going to be studying. So again, we've been spending most of our time with personality psychology, which is revealed by the lines and the shapes in our hand. That's all dynamic. That can all change. As our thought process changes, lines can change direction. They can get breaks in them. You can create new lines. Lines that were there can actually start to disappear as we start to clear up issues in our life. but it gives us really a overall feel of a person's personality, their strengths, weaknesses, challenges, what their need system is, what their needs are in life, how we think, feel, and react. Okay, so with this aspect, this is our soul agenda. We're going to learn 3 things, and this is going to be, I think, more for your personal enrichment. Some clients, patients might be open to this, but you want to be a little bit cautious with it, because a lot of people, it's going to be too esoteric, a little too woo-woo. So you want to take care in who you do it with. If I was a life coach, perhaps, and I got more into counseling for somebody's personal issues, then this is something that would be really, really effective. But think of it really now as for your personal enrichment, and just try to stay with me on this, because some of it's going to be kind of like, wow, how did he develop this? And these are the 3 things we're going to work on: life purpose, life lesson, and our school. Okay, so dermatoglyphics is a science of reading our fingerprints, and it's a scientific study. And actually, they've probably done more scientific research on fingerprint patterns than any other part of palmistry. But everything I've taught you so far, all the personality stuff, has actually been researched in neuroscience. How the shapes of our hand and the size of our fingers and everything actually is reflected in our personality and behavioral traits. This is actually a science now. And so I'm actually a very pragmatic person. So I'm really kind of science-based person. I really kind of have to experience it to really believe it and see it over and over again, and where it's repeatable. And in this case, in dermatoglyphics, I've seen that. It took me a while to really come to the study of this and really accept it and really go with it. I was more interested in my when I started this private practice, of actually just learning more personality, behavioral traits of my patients and what kind of issues they were dealing with. This is a little bit deeper, a little bit heavier for sure. So this was coined by dermatoglyphics was coined by Harold Cummins, who was a hand reader in the 1920s. And dermato means skin, and glyphics means something means carvings. So a lot of the studies they've done with dermatoglyphics have to do with more physical stuff. Well, actually, emotional stuff as well. In fact, we're going to study different fingerprint patterns. We're going to study 4 main fingerprint patterns. And there's something called arches that we'll study. And arches, they found people that have arch fingerprints test really high on anxiety studies. So, and that's going to really line up with what we're going to teach here today. Again, there's our fingerprint patterns are in place 5 months prior to birth. That's when our fingerprints actually form in utero. And I'm going to make the statement. This is a map that tells you where you are and how you're going to get to where you want to go. And this is really what this is all about. It's a genetic imprint that kind of gives us a blueprint for our lives, and it tells us really again what we're really here for. It gives more of a meaning to your life. Okay, try to hang with me on this one, because it is a little bit more esoteric than the stuff we've been learning. But when you talk about hands to anybody, you have to be careful who you talk to. My brother, I don't even tell him I do these classes, because he would just think I'm totally out there. Even the fact that I started acupuncture, he thought I was a little bit loony. So you do have to be a little bit careful who you talk to about this type of information. Some people are a little bit more open-minded than others. Okay, so palmistry and dermatoglyphics, they both are a way of looking at the outside of our body to tell what's going on in our inner selves, our inner reality. So one is based on a scientific method, and that's dermatoglyphics. And I would say actually now both are. Before it was just more folklore. Everybody thinks of hand reading as gypsy palm, palmistry and predictive fortune telling. But that's not really how it was really studied and started. It was really more issue oriented, knowing a person's personality, learning what kind of skills they have, behavioral traits that they have. Okay, and it's based on that literally thousands of years of anecdotal evidence. So let's just talk a little bit about fingerprint patterns, which are really interesting. The fingerprint patterns, that type of a pattern with ridges actually show up in nature, and they show up on sand dunes, because sand dunes, the sand actually has ridges. Excuse me, as does the beach. The beach, when the water hits the sand and recedes, it leaves an imprint. Very, very, very similar to fingerprint patterns. And so you could actually make the comparison that there's been a wave energy imprint. Something has left its imprint on a denser medium. And that's what we think has happened with our fingerprint patterns, that we were imprinted 5 months prior to birth. And it's hard to say for a fact what caused that imprint, whether it was DNA, just purely genetic, if it's a legacy from our ancestors. Now, what's interesting is if you think about it, we inherit physical traits. Why would we not carry on emotional stuff that our ancestors had? It makes sense that would carry over as well. And that's kind of what this is based on a bit. It's kind of an ancestral influence that's caused these specific fingerprint patterns to form on certain fingers in our hand. Okay, we'll try to think of it that way. So the Indians, Navajo Indians, actually believe that the Great Spirit, God, breathed in the breath of life, and tracks that the breath become our fingerprints. So they believe that God created the fingerprint patterns on our fingertips. Okay, again, these are the three things we're going to study today, and you're each going to get be able to figure out your own life purpose, life lesson, and school, hopefully today. What you're really going to need, though, is to get a magnifying glass, preferably one that's got like a light on it. That's what I have. I have one that kind of lights up. Fingerprints are a little bit hard to see just with the naked eye, so you're going to need a little bit of amplification. And so get yourself a little lens, and that'll really help. Okay, so life purpose is your roadmap for life. Okay? It's your right life. It's what gives you the deepest sense of fulfillment in life. Okay, so it's not really necessarily a job, or it's not a goal in life. It's actually it's some activity, a state of consciousness that you bring, and that just makes you feel totally self-actualized. Okay, it's kind of, I call it your right life. And so it defines what's really important to you. It's probably one of the most important things you can learn in life. Okay, and life lesson is life lesson is kind of your blind spot, your weakness, your left hand, you're right-handed. It's the area that you keep bumping into in life, and it's where you struggle with it. So you need to make progress basically in the life lesson it's kind of your doorway into fulfilling your life purpose. You'll never perfect this. It's always going to be kind of a weak area for you, kind of an Achilles heel for you. We all have weaknesses, but we just need to make progress. You make progress in it, that's all it's required to help fulfill your life purpose. Okay, and then thirdly, we're going to be talking about your school. And your school is like a training program. Certain skills that you have not developed, and probably in your ancestors had to work on, never really developed a certain area of understanding in life, of development. I guess would be kind of a theme of development. There's 4 different schools that you can fall into, and each have to do with a different aspect of human development. And we'll talk about each one. So again, it's a life theme, the background of which events of your life play out. Everyone fits into one of 4 schools. You can actually fall into 2 schools. That's possible as well. Usually people fall into just one. Okay. So these are the 4 schools. The school of service. When the school of service is really designed to develop your ability to serve. These are people that like to serve others, like to help other people. And it's a to do service correctly is what we're really trying to learn, because you can serve, but you can actually overserve as well. And that's called getting into servitude. You're overserving. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Secondly, there's the school of love, which is a school that rather teaches you closeness, how to find love, how to express your feelings appropriately in the moment. We'll talk about the school of love. And then the school of wisdom is designed for people that have trouble taking action. They're observers in life, and they're always fearful to actually take action. So the school of wisdom are people that fall into that category. And then finally, there's the school of peace. And the school of peace is all about feeling safe in your body, basically. It's learning to change anxiety to calmness. And these people tend to be rushing around. Their whole life is based on anxiety, and they're really the A-type personality. Sometimes they can get times that they can really get anxious in life. They usually have too many things going on at once. It's learning to slow down and be at peace with oneself. Okay, so those are the 4 schools, one of which you're all going to fall into. Okay, so here's a little graph that we're going to talk about. You see the school of service, and the school of service is going to be correspond to this type of a fingerprint pattern. It's called a whorl, and it kind of looks like a bullseye. You can see it a little bit better over here. You can see how it forms like a bullseye. Called the whorl, and this is the symbol we use because we're going to make out these little charts, and it makes it easy to read. And we're going to put this on whatever fingerprint finger this shows up on. We're going to put a little whorl, and I'll show you how to do that. So that's what a whorl looks like. Again, it's got a couple of what we call tri-radii on each side where the lines start to go in different directions. There'll be one on each side for a whorl, but basically it just forms a little bullseye. Okay. The second fingerprint pattern is going to be called a loop. And a loop kind of goes up and it kind of comes right back the same side. And the people in this are going to be in the school of love. And there's one tri-radii in this fingerprint pattern. And this we designate it by this little symbol. It's called a loop. Okay, this is what a loop looks like in a fingerprint. You can see how it just kind of goes up and comes right back the same side. Okay, so that's going to be associated with people that are in the school of love. And then the school of wisdom is, we call it, it's a tenon arch. Now it looks like an arch, but a really steep arch. You see how it kind of comes up and goes down, comes up and goes down. And it actually forms in the center, it forms a little tent pole, you can see. And usually there'll be one tri-radii right in the center here. Okay, but it basically the fingerprint goes up, down, it's got a little tent pole that sticks up. And that's how you draw the tented arch. Okay, and again, tented archers are associated with the school of wisdom. Okay. And the final school is the school of peace. And the school of peace is designated by an arch pattern. And arch patterns just kind of come up and go back down. See, it's not nearly as steep as the tenon arch. It just goes up and down, and it's designated by this symbol, just a flat line. And again, that's in the school of peace. So these are the 4 schools. And the way to determine the school is by how many of these you have. It's purely by number. Okay, you need a certain number of any one of these to be officially a member of the school. Okay, this is what the best way to do it. Just make yourself a little chart. This is for your right hand. This is for your left hand, and just make a little space for each of your 5 fingers. And then on each finger, you're going to put whatever symbol is on each finger. If this is a whorl, you put a whorl on the thumb. If you have a tenon arch on the Jupiter and the index finger, you put a tenon arch there. On the middle finger, if you have a loop, you put the loop here. Okay, again, here would be a whorl on the ring finger, Apollo, and this would be a whorl on the Mercury finger, the little finger. Okay, then you do the same thing for the left hand. Okay, whorl, arch, loop, loop, whorl. Okay. Again, here's a whorl. I'm just going to show you a few different pictures of whorls just so you get a little cleaner view of them. Again, you see the bullseye, you see the 2, these are the two tri-radii that come here, and they kind of, everything starts to branch in different directions, but they form a bullseye. You can see all the whorls here. Some look a little more vertical, but they still closes up to a bullseye. See, all a little bit different. Okay, you'll get good at recognizing these after you see them for a while. And here's a loop. Again, it goes up and comes back. Okay, again, it's got the one tri-radii that's a little bit off, it'll be off center, and then fingerprint goes up and back down the same side. Here's all loop patterns. This one's a little hard to see. Here, again, here's a loop, and here's another loop. Okay. And here's the tenon arch. Again, it's the high arch that goes very high, and you can see the tent pole that kind of forms in the center. Feeling. These are all kind of tenon arches here. You can see how they kind of all go up. They've got a little tenon arch kind of a feel that goes up. And this would be an arch, just a plain arch. Again, it goes up and back. Doesn't go up high enough to really get that feel of a little pole here. Here's some examples of a tenon arch again. All four of these. You can see this one's very flat. Okay. Okay. So let's look at the School of Service. And so the School of Service is, again, is all about serving others. And it's in this transaction, you want to be able to, both parties want to be getting something from it. The person that's doing the serving, you want to get something from it. The person actually you're helping wants to get something from it. But sometimes that equation gets rocked to one side. Sometimes people that are in service tend to overserve, and that would be a service error. So you want to make sure you're not over. So for example, you have a mother-in-law that, your mother, for example, that raised you, did everything for you, was the greatest mother in the world, and you're 35 years old, you've got a wife and two kids, and you get a call from her, and she wants to come stay with you, come live with you. And you talk to your wife, and she says, "Yeah, we're glad to help you. Want to help you out. You helped me through my whole life. What can I do for you?" So she goes, "Well, yeah, I'd really love to come live with you, but I like to bring my boyfriend." And you go, "Oh," you think about it, talk to the wife, and she says, "Yay or nay." And so you go, "Okay, well, we can do that." Then she goes, "Well, I want to bring my mariachi band with me also." And you're like, "Oh my God, it's getting to be too much." So if you're, so you can overserve. You can say, "Okay, come on, bring everybody," right? Then you're going to be taking too much of a load on, right? You're going to be overserving. So that would be a way to be in this school. And this is what people tend to do that are in this school. They tend to either overserve, or if they're underserved, they're all about themselves. So it's learning to kind of balance that. You're doing something for other people, but you're getting from it, and the other person's getting something from it. But it's kind of an equal balance. Okay. Again, so service errors would be servitude, overserving, burdensome obligation. Okay. Master of service is somebody that serves somebody else, serves themselves. Okay. And serves the planet. Okay. And again, the School of Service, again, is part of the Whorl pattern. So you need a certain amount of these. We're going to talk about exactly what you need, how many Whorls you need to be in this school. Because that's the way you determine what school you're in. You actually have to count up the number of the fingerprint patterns, and each fingerprint patterns requires a certain amount of those to be in that school. So here's a School of Love, and the School of Love is all about developing love, closeness with somebody, expressing your feelings, being able to express your feelings. A lot of people have a lot of difficulty with this. They keep things to themselves, or they end up stuffing their feelings. They get upset with their mate and they keep it all inside. So this is learning the skills to actually express your feelings. When you're not feeling happy with someone, you can express that out as well. So it's emotional authenticity, but it's really learning to be close to somebody, learning those skills. And those are actually very difficult for a lot of people. Okay. So again, emotional mastery, becoming fully responsive to your own feelings, emotions, staying present with feelings no matter the content. So being able to express no matter what you're feeling, okay, and feel safe doing so. Okay. Let's go to the School of Wisdom. The School of Wisdom is probably the one that people that are in probably deny the most. But those are people that are observers in life. They don't take action. They think about it or they procrastinate, but they never actually take that leap. So it's like standing on the edge of a diving board. They just can't take that leap. They can't take that chance. And when you in this school, a School of Wisdom, you have more of that in you. You have a tendency just to observe, and you accumulate all this wisdom, but you don't share it. So you have to learn to take action and participate. Okay. And then finally, the School of Peace. Again, it's about feeling safe in your body. It's learning to, people that are in this school, they tend to have a million things going on at once. They overcommit, and they're always running around. Life's just based on adrenaline rush. And they have to learn their skills to actually relax and slow down and enjoy life. Okay. Actually, my teacher, Richard Unger, has this school as a School of Peace. And he says his whole life, until he started reading hands and learning about hands, was about one emergency after another. His whole life was like that, just one to another. Everything was just rush. You just one thing to another. So it's learning to kind of slow yourself down. Again, so survival mode, adrenal addiction, they're always behind. Everything's a struggle. They're just, again, and even Western neurology has studied this, people with this particular fingerprint of the arches, and found they have really high anxiety levels. So it fits pretty well. Okay. So you want to have alert stillness. Okay. You want to be alert, but you want to be calm at the same time. Okay, so let's look at the count that how many of each of these you need to get into that school. And I want all of you to get yourself a magnifying glass tonight and look at your fingerprint patterns and see where they're at and make that little chart, and then count how many of each of these whorls, loops, tenon arches, or arches that you have. Okay, and that'll tell you what school you're in. So the School of Service, which is the Whorl, you need 4 of those whorls. 4 of your fingerprints need to have whorls on it to be in the School of Service. There are people that actually have 10 of these. Actually, was interesting. A woman that one of Richard's students was on was it one of those shows, Today's Show. Matt wasn't with Matt Lauer, but was the guy that replaced him with Les. I don't remember Les's last name, but she actually was had her on the show, and she took the fingerprint patterns of a couple of the workers in the show, and they did his fingerprints, and he had 10 whorls. So his life is all about service. His whole life, that's his main thing. It's very unusual fingerprint to have that many. Usually people have 2 or 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 at the most. It was interesting. He actually had 10 of those. So you need 4, definitely put you in that school. 3 is a maybe. Okay, we'll talk about maybes later. But if you have 4, you're in for sure. Okay. The loop pattern, and this is the most common pattern, is you need more of those. And you need 7 of those to get into what's called the School of Love. Okay. And the School of Wisdom, which is a tenon arch, you need only 2 of those. They're a much more rare fingerprint pattern. You don't see it as much, but you need 2 of those. 1 might get you in there, but 2 definitely. And then the School of Peace, which is designated by the arch again, is the same thing. You don't see as many of those. 2 will get you in there for sure. 1 is a maybe. Okay. So again, the school is, as above here, is a kind of a training program. It's kind of part of your life lesson. It's going to be something that's with you your whole life. It's going to be an area that you're going to keep bumping into probably throughout your life. And it's just having that awareness actually kind of helps you realize when you're feeling those feelings. Well, I'm kind of designed that way, naturally designed that way. What can I do? How can I work on that area? So it's an area you'll find that you actually need to kind of progress in, need to do some skills to work on. Okay. So again, the School of Service, service versus servitude, love versus stuffed feelings. Wisdom, and there's a sitting on the fence, so you want to actually use that wisdom. And then peace. And Mr. Sticks, Richard talks about this, Mr. Sticks and plates. It's like your life is, you know, those guys in the fairs that they juggle those sticks on plates, those plates on sticks rather. They have got 5 or 6 of them going at once. That's what your life tends to be like if you're in the school of peace. Okay, it's kind of a good visual. Okay. So just look at some examples, and then after this, we're going to get to the life purpose. In this case, we've got just the 2 whorls. The 2 whorls are not going to get you in the school of love. So what else do we have here? We have 2 tinted arches. And how many do we need of tinted arches? We need 2. We have 2. You need 2. So this puts you in the school of wisdom. We have 6 school of love. Okay, how many do you need for school of love? Well, we need 7. Okay, 6 is a maybe. So you're going to have some of this energy as well. Okay, but this is going to be your main Achilles heel. This is going to be the main area you're going to need to work on. Okay, is learning to not just be a great student, but be a participant. Okay, take that risk. It's really learning about risk taking. Okay. Another example below that is these. Let's look at the whorls. We have 3 whorls here. 3 is a maybe. 4 is for sure. So you're not necessarily in that. You got 6 loops here. We really need 7, but 6 is a maybe. And then we have 1 arch, and 1 arch we need 2. So you have 3 maybes here. Okay, so you're going to you don't really have one that stands out, so you can have a little bit of each of these. Okay, 3 is unusual. 2 is not that unusual to be in 2 different schools. 3 is a little bit unusual. So it's going to be a little bit more things to juggle for sure. Okay, so that's a school. Okay, that's kind of what we swim in. That's going to be surround our life purpose and our life lesson. So what is life purpose? Life purpose is that which brings you the greatest satisfaction at the deepest possible level. Okay, it's more than a goal. It's beyond right livelihood. It's your reason for being. Finding it is the single most important thing you can do in life. It's really what gives you the most satisfaction. What area that you really kind of makes you feel like, I'm doing the right thing. I'll talk about my life purpose maybe a little bit later. My purpose is living my passions, which sounds like a really easy, great, I got to do everything what I do, like whatever I love, I can just do whatever I want. But defining that life passion can be very, very tricky. And that's something I struggled with for many years. We'll talk about life purposes as we go along here. So let's look at identifying life purpose. Okay, now this is done a little bit differently. Life purpose and life lesson, we're going to figure out these a little bit differently. There's actually a ranking system that we have on fingerprints. Okay, the Whorl is going to be ranked the most. We're going to give it a 4 ranking. The loop is going to earn a 3 ranking. The tinted arch is going to be the next, and that's you need 2 of those. And then, I'm sorry, it's a 2 ranking, and then again, arch is just a 1 ranking. So it's 4, 3, 2, 1. Whorl's at the top, loop is next, tinted arch is the next, and arch is the least amount. Okay. So the way you find your life purpose is whichever fingerprint